Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon, and by your tips and memberships on Ko-fi. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. And as always, thank you for all your support, including sharing, chatting, liking, and subscribing. Now roll that famous logo animation! Good evening, or good afternoon, and welcome to Computerized Start Live. I am your host, Justin D. Morgan, and today is a somewhat special day. It is the 1-year anniversary to when I started streaming. Now, of course, if you go on my VODs on YouTube, you'll probably say, now wait a minute, Justin, I don't see anything from July 1st of last year. That's because I wasn't streaming on YouTube yet. But I was streaming, so yay, happy 1-year anniversary to me. And to help me celebrate, it looks like I have Adam McGee here, Steve from Mac84, Retro Techie, Garth Beagle, Trina's Technobabble, and yes, are all here because they also must have heard that it is Apple II July. And like any good month that is themed, I broke out my finest LED thing that you can't really totally see what it is, but at least it's somewhat apple-shaped, thanks to cameras and their wonderful ability to not really focus and expose for the really bright things. I also have brought 2 special computers down to the basement. I've got one that is too big for my workbench, but we're going to manage. And the other one is portable. And yes, you're now probably thinking, well, that doesn't look like an Apple IIc, and that is because this is Franklin's response to the Apple IIc. It is the Franklin Ace 500. And what is on my workbench that we're going to look at first? Well, that would be, no fooling you, you probably read the video description, the Franklin Ace 1000 Plus. Oh, and apparently, to my Canadian friends, it is also Canada Day. So, happy Canada Day to my Canadian friends. My US friends, we will get to celebrate our day on Monday. So reflect, that's a good idea, Garth. I will try to reflect the LED bright off the wall and see if it shows up better. Is that a Commodore? No, this is not a Commodore. I mean, it does have a 6502 processor, but this is an Apple II Plus clone. This computer and its predecessors and successors, got Franklin Computer Corporation in big, big trouble with Apple. Well, Adam, there is one good reason why this looks like a fake Apple II Plus, and that is because it is a fake Apple II Plus. And it's a mildly interesting story. The Justin's Notes version of it is, a long time ago, a company called IBM came out with the IBM PC, and a company called Compaq decided to reverse engineer the ROMs by having engineers examine how the computer worked, giving that documentation to another set of engineers, and that second set of engineers implemented a new BIOS that was compatible with the IBM, using only the notes on how the IBM BIOS worked. And of course, IBM probably was jealous, but turns out that was totally fine. So Franklin Computer Corporation decides that they want to get in on this Apple II thing And they just copy Apple's ROMs and change Apple to Franklin. I think it's pretty much what they did. Apple sues, and at first, Franklin actually prevails in court, which is how in the world Franklin had so many clones out there, is because the first courts were ruling, well, you can't copyright the compiled code. So Franklin prevailed. Of course, Apple kept appealing. Franklin had a couple computers. I think there's like the Ace 100 and the Ace 1000, and then the Ace 1000, and I think there's an Ace 1200, and then there's a 500 and a 2000. At some point in this history, there was another lawsuit going through the federal court system. I don't know which one that was, but another appellate court eventually ruled that the compiled code is indeed copyrightable. So I think after that prevailing decision, that's when the Franklin Ace 500 and 2000 came out. Those are not wholesale copies of Apple's code, but it was too late, and eventually Apple and Franklin Computers settled, probably before it went to the Supreme Court, and Franklin Computer Corporation was prohibited from ever selling computers ever again. But you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute, isn't Franklin still around? And they are. Because around the same time that they got prohibited from selling computers, they discovered that those little electronic organizers were way more profitable than computers. And I believe they actually do still make pocket electronic dictionaries and pocket electronic Bibles and so forth, even to this day. And apparently it's enough to keep them in business. So, yes. But anyways, this is a clone of the Apple II Plus. It is okay, Garth. It's because I was feeling generous the day that I made Retrotechie a mod. Garth, you will probably notice shortly that I have bestowed upon you some additional responsibilities. And I think yes, I see that I need to correct another oversight. All right. Adam McGee, if you will eventually realize that I have very quickly given you some additional privileges thereof. Yeah, I think it was a while ago when I made Retrotechie a mod, because when I had way fewer streamers, and Retrotechie was one of the more Retrotechie was very reliable in being on my live stream, so he actually didn't have to ask me to make him a mod. I made him a mod while I was not that I'm a large streamer now, but it was when I had so few people, I thought I could count on Retrotechie in case a spammer came in and started link spamming. So, yes, now that I have corrected some oversights in the chat, I think it's about time we crack this computer open. Well, not that I've already opened it. I carried it downstairs in 2 pieces, but yeah, and Steve's now saying, now I've done it. Yeah, I probably put half the audience to sleep with my summary of Franklin Computers in a nutshell. Anyways, so it's already open because I carried this computer downstairs in 2 pieces, because this top piece is rather heavy, and because it contains the floppy drive, and also because there is a broken clip somewhere on, oh yeah, the case is actually broken right here. So I didn't want to try to carry it downstairs in 1 piece. So I've already cracked it open. Yes. All right. So, as Adam McGee was noticing, this looked like a fake Apple II Plus because, as I understand, the Franklin Ace 1000 is basically a fake Apple II Plus, would be the best way to put it. And unlike the old saying of imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, I don't think Apple Computer appreciated the imitation. I really don't think they did. So, I think I've got to turn this thing over to get the screws out because this is much like all the Apples. I think the case comes off from screws on the bottom, and then this plastic will come off, and I got to disconnect some cables that are under here. And that I think the screws for the power supply are also on the underside. And we'll be able to see the entire logic board. But a couple differences that you can spot right away from an actual Apple II Plus. The floppy controller is actually integrated. I do believe it has lowercase. That is another difference. Because right here is, you can't see it, but there is a caps lock key right here. So I think it does have lowercase. But it has the floppy controller integrated. And also, when I first got this, I freaked out that something was wrong with slot 6 until I realized that that wasn't a bent pin. That's actually a plastic insert that Franklin must have put in there because the floppy drive's integrated. So you can't put anything in slot 6 because the onboard floppy controller is slot 6. So, this computer also had this card in it. I believe this is a Microtech parallel board. I think I looked it up. I think it's a parallel port. Unfortunately, the cable for it is gone, though it looks like it's a standard 34. Well, actually, I thought most parallel ports used a 26-pin cable, but this was probably standard at the time, a 34-pin header for the parallel port. I could probably make a new cable for this and hook a parallel cable up to it and have fun with some old printer. I believe the power supply is pretty much going to be a clone of Apple's power supply, so I could probably use an Apple power supply on this if I really needed to. Also, I will point out, if anyone's wondering, but can't zoom in too much or I won't be able to have it in frame, but the serial number on the motherboard matches the serial number on the power supply. So, yeah, actually, Adam, at some point I would like to try to hook a printer up to it. So, yeah. You can, well, I'll add that to my wish list from you. Yeah, because if I get this computer up and running, I will certainly try to hook a printer up to it. Because okay. Adam says this connector is different from the 2 Plus and 2E connector. So, electrically, it's probably producing the same voltages, but connection-wise, it is a different connector. So I'm actually hoping that I'll be able to recap this power supply. But if I can't, then I should be able to adapt the reactive micro power supply to it. And it probably will fit into the power supply. All right. Oh, yeah, and yeah, it's upside down, but the serial number on the bottom of the case matches. So this computer is a matched set for whatever it's worth. And yes, if you want to subscribe to a channel of someone who definitely knows his Apple IIs, Adam's Apples is a channel to check out. And all you got to do is take a look at his set behind him, and you'll realize that he probably knows a thing or two about his Apple hardware. And he could probably even tell you even the minor differences between various revisions of things. And so go check out his channel. Oh, and Adam's actually just telling me it's, yeah, just 12 plus minus and 5 plus and minus. Yeah. I think that's pretty much the... Yeah, I think the reactive micro power supply is the same deal. I think it does all the voltages. All right, so there are, let's see, 3, 7, 8. It looks like there's 11 screws that hold the plastic onto the case. And then you want to very carefully unplug the keyboard. I've already unplugged the power supply. And that was the, there's like a ferrite core that was on the video out. So you'll need to unplug the keyboard, the joystick, and the power supply, and then the metal bottom will just attach. The keyboard is on the serial number label on the keyboard also matches. So I guess, oh, yeah, and the case is broken. I knew there was a little more damage there somewhere. Unfortunately, unlike some of the other computers that I've bought off eBay, that the seller packaged horribly and they lucked out, and that the computers were built like a tank. Sometimes I think Michael Spindler worked for Franklin Computers because it seems like their plastic is kind of cheap. So unfortunately, it sustained some shipping damage that I probably should have complained to the seller about to get a small refund, but I didn't because I was so busy at the time. And actually, I'm not even sure I really realized that it might have been cracked. But yeah, actually, that is a joystick on the back. Or I thought it was a joystick. It's a 9-pin connector. Maybe that's actually... it's marked on the board. It says IO game. So I suspect it's a 9-pin joystick. Don't know what the pinout is. I don't know. I know Apple made some sort of joystick. I don't remember how many pins it had. But it is marked as a game, IO and game port. All right, and then to get the power supply off, it's just 4 more screws. Yeah, it goes to the 16-pin game port. It had become detached in shipping, but luckily I figured out where it went and was able to get the pins bent back. All right, so there's the power supply. I haven't powered this up because I've actually, it's perforated and on the side, and I actually kind of have an idea what's in it. And we'll just say that there's a certain distinct component that is in there. Adam says if it's a true copy of the Apple port, then it supports paddles and joysticks. All right, that'll be good. All right, so I guess just taking a look at this board a bit. I guess the one good thing is this computer appears to be probably pretty much a clone of the Apple II Plus because it looks like everything is a standard logic chip. Other than probably the floppy controller is probably a copy of the IWM. But, I mean, it's a 6502 processor. Here's the ROMs. In fact, they almost look like the same ROM type that Apple used. The memory is just right off screen. There's the memory chips. They're 4164s. Texas Instruments, luckily, so they'll probably work. I mean, all of these other logic chips are socketed, and they appear to be your standard Jelly Bean logic chips. So I guess if any chips do prove to be bad, they're probably replaceable. I guess I can see if I can kind of zoom in. So just kind of, so there's the memory, 74LS logic. I mean, it's just very, and yeah, it looks like the ROMs are just well, yeah, it looks like the ROMs are 4 chips. Right there. I believe there's the 4 main ROM. Plus I think there's a character ROM down near the keyboard connector. But yeah, there's the 4 chips. Looks like this one's F000, and here's one that don't recognize what that one is right offhand. Or and this one's D000, and this one's marked D/C. So maybe this one's the E000. But yeah, 4 chips for the ROM. And there's the floppy disk controller. No telling what it is. It's probably some sort of a clone of the IWM. There's the Schematic 6502 processor. I mean, all these standard logic chips, so if any are bad, and all the chips are socketed. So okay, I am very suspicious that this has a clone of Integer Basic on it, because I did notice, I had the distinct impression, even when I saw the listing and I bought it anyways, that there was a card missing from this computer. And I believe the Franklin's language card clone is missing, because I suspect it goes right into that socket to pick up the address lines. Because I know Apple's would have plugged in place of one of the memory chips. I think usually like the memory chip that's down here, and you'd plug that memory chip into Apple's language card, or maybe that's Microsoft's language card, and then plug its ribbon cable in where the memory chip went. But I think Franklin's plugs in right there, I suspect. So yeah, I'll be looking for one of those, because I would rather run AppleSoft Basic, but I mean, it looked like this was a nearly complete Franklin in decent shape. So, yep, there's the keyboard. That's where the keyboard plugs in. And I think if I can get it on camera here, I think there's the character ROM right here, down near the keyboard. But yeah, even I know that the Apple II, wrong way. I mean, this logic board is big. If having trouble showing it all on camera is any indications, this is a rather large logic board. Try to show it without my head blocking it. Yeah. Yeah, Adam, I suspect you would have to charge me more than I paid for this computer. So I'll just keep an eye out for one at the right price. I mean, I have occasionally seen the Franklin cards come up that I think are the Franklin's clone of the language card. Oh, looky there. A free paperclip in my Franklin. Maybe I can trade up this paperclip for an AppleSoft ROM card. So I just have to find someone that would like a slightly rusty, probably magnetic at this point, bog standard paperclip for something slightly more valuable. Cue the laughter in the chat. So it had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it has 8 slots. Yeah, no, these boards are quite large. So anyways, I do know that there are a few caps on this board. They all appear to be on this side of the board. I also suspect that they cloned Apple in Apple's use of axial caps or radial caps, whichever one. I always get the two mixed up. So it looks like there are 7 of them, and they're all down that side of the board. There are no electrolytics elsewhere. There are other capacitors, but they're glass capacitors. Wow. Yeah, they're glass capacitors. And I just about thought there weren't any other capacitors on the board. But yeah, they're all, like there's one right there. It's a... I guess that's nowadays you get them in ceramic, probably. Yeah. Yep, so that would be where the language card goes. Oh, you can't see. So there's slot 0. I know slot 6 here would be where the floppy drive controller would go if it wasn't integrated. I was actually kind of surprised that they even bothered putting a slot there, because I don't know if you can disable the onboard floppy controller. Although maybe you could by just pulling the chip. That might do it. So maybe that is why they put the slot there, in case they ever needed to sell an upgrade. Then I guess they could probably tell you to pull the floppy controller and pull the little plastic peg out of the slot, and then install your upgraded floppy controller in slot 6. So yeah. All right, now I do believe one other thing about this computer. I know some of the earlier Franklin clones, due to another lawsuit with Apple, because Apple had a patent on the color graphics. And I think some of the earlier Franklins did not have color built in, but I think by the time this one came out, they had restored the color capability onto the motherboard. So I believe when it's time to plug this in, I'm expecting that I'm going to have color capabilities. And it's not fixed yet, Retro Techie. I know. All right, so let's crack open this power supply and see what horrors await within. Which I've seen into the side of this. I was trying to keep it a surprise, but well, let's just say that there's certain components that are... Oh, yeah, there might be a jumper. There's a couple headers on that board that I don't know what they do. Yeah. Yes, Adam. Yeah, the Apple's color system was very janky. I mean, it was both... I'd have to say brilliant in the way they pulled it off with so little hardware, but it was also very janky as a result. Later computers had much better color graphics, and yet Apple stuck with their cheap system for so long. I mean, even like by the time the Atari and TI-99/4A and some of those computers came out with their graphics chips. I mean, granted, compared to today's graphics, they're nothing. But even those graphics chips they weren't trying to use the color burst tricks to get colors on the screen. So, all right, this is the Franklin power supply. Now, this hasn't plugged in a long time, but I'm still going to be careful in case there's a charge. And now you probably see the exact 2 things that I saw through the side of the case. And that would be the Rifa caps. Although, interestingly enough, everything else in the power supply... Ooh, that's weird. I was about to say everything else in the power supply looks okay, but then there was some weird substance on the side of that cap that both looked and felt like glue, yet did not look and feel like glue. So, I don't know, these caps might probably need to be replaced. But yeah, these Rifa caps are... Yeah, these Rifa caps are one power up away from just becoming smoke. I could tell you how much it would cost in tips to just fire this thing up, especially now that I see how cracked those Rifas are. I do have my price. There is a price at which I would just jam that power plug in, consequences be darned, and turn it on and see what happened. But it would not be cheap. Oh, actually, I'm looking at some of the diodes in this power supply, and they kind of... the legs on them look weird. Let me see if I can... how much I can zoom in here. All right. So, we have... so, there are actually... You know, maybe I should use a plastic spudger. Although, this should be discharged, but... it's probably a good idea to assume that power supplies are charged, that these caps are holding a charge, unless you actually test them. So anyways, I don't know what's up with the leads on these diodes, but they look black and blackened. I don't know if maybe that's just... I don't know, that looks weird. I think those are diodes. You know, they're marked as diodes. I don't know what they are. This cap here had some substance on the side of it that might have been glue, but kind of felt weird. I mean, it could have been glue because there is glue on the bottom of these caps holding them in, so that's going to be fun to remove. So here's one of the Rifa caps, and it is cracked, and I mean, looks like maybe it has smoked. Yes. The spammers have arrived. Yes, I'm glad you deleted those messages. Feel free for those spammers like that to actually go one step further and ban them. They'll just create a new YouTube account at some point and do it again, but... I'm going to make them work for their 1.2 seconds of time of fame before a mod catches it. All right, back to more fun things than the caps do look okay. The fuse... the fuse, I can't tell. I think there's a wire in it, but I'm having trouble seeing the wire in it. It's a really thin one. But so the fuse might actually be intact. It's hard to see the wire. All right, I'm not going to bother putting the... Okay, it's measuring at about 0.25 ohms, which is probably correct. It's a 2 amp, 250 volt fuse. Okay. So the fuse is probably good. people are suggesting that I smell the power supply, which would tell me if it's something smoked in it. Smells like musty electronics. Hey, Rudy, welcome. Yeah, this clone power supply, it's like Franklin said, oh, look, Apple's using reefa caps. Let's use those too. Yeah. Yeah, it's got that musty electronics smell. Wow, this is some... So it's got this board here with capacitors, which kind of look like those are also filter caps of some sort. And then it's got reefa caps. I know one thing, though. This is not a switching power supply. I believe because I think these are going to be the linear regulators for probably the +5 and +12, if I can read the numbers on them. Oh, no, wait, I bet that one's going to be +5 or +12, because that's a big transistor there. Big enough that it looks like this component's run hot. There's a capacitor and at least there's a fan in here. Oh, actually, I bet that's the 5 volts right there. That's probably 5 volts. That might be 12 volts. Just taking a guess. 0.1 microfarad refed is the same as an Aztec Apple supply. I might actually have some, let me see here. So those are both X class, 0.22 and 0.1. Because I bought a few extra safety caps when I did the 2CI power supply. Let me take a quick peek at my spare parts table. Only because I've been too lazy to find some bins. Of course, plastic bins are expensive these days. All right, let me see. I remember having something extra. Oh, well, there's that. Oh, okay, it was nope, 0.47, I believe. Okay, apparently I don't. All right, I'll have to order some reefa caps or replacements. Although what I could do is I could see if those are going between live and neutral or live and ground. So let me see if I can get this board out of here, which will first require Yeah, this is a very old school power supply. It was definitely a modern power supply would be more efficient and run cooler. This thing probably runs pretty warm. I mean, it's got a fan in it, which is probably good that it has a fan in it. Because I don't remember if the Apple... Did Apple's power supply have a fan in it? I mean, I think they eventually did have to put one in it. Yeah, worst thing is a reefa blows up. Yeah, I don't really want my basement to smell like a reefa cap. Which is why I was thinking of nipping the problem in the bud. After all, I have more live streams planned for this weekend, and I don't think a reefa cap smoke would air out before my next planned live stream. Apple II has a fan? Okay. Well, yeah, the worst that would happen is a reefa blows up, but also, most of the time, it'll still work after a reefa blows, so I'm thinking that I can remove the reefa cap, and then the reefa cap cannot blow up, and it will still work, theoretically. Well, now, that's a good sign, although that's kind of weird. Although, oh, maybe that's just the solder mask is flaked off. So the underside of the board looks good. Solder mask is kind of flaking off in spots. But this is certainly something you don't see nowadays. This appears to be a hand-drawn PCB. I don't have the proper reefa caps to replace them. Otherwise, I would replace them. Because, yeah, they kind of look like they're about ready to go. So let me take a quick moment here to remove these reefas. Yeah, I'm going to just use the power without the reefas. Then I get all the advantages of, yeah. I'll be able to test it and see what it does so that I'll know what its behavior is before I do a eventual recap. Plus, I'll be able to measure the reefa caps that are in here to buy a better matching cap than some I have in the past for other computers. So we will just gotta wait for my desolder station to warm up. Yeah. If there's any nearby ham operator as well, I'll probably have the computer turned off before they'll figure out where the interference is coming from. And even if they figured out it was coming from me, I'll never hear them knocking on the door from down here. Unless they think to come around to the basement door. Then again, I don't think they'll see me from there either. Plus, I'm sure I've done other things just as bad. Like, I had that Atari 400 operating without its RF shield on it. I'm sure that wasn't good for our ham radio either. You know, by golly, I think they bent the leads on these. All right. Well, I'll get the solder mostly off, and then I'll pull out the soldering iron to pull the pin out the rest of the way. Yep, that is a very good thing to do. Adam, let me go ahead and let me take a picture of the board with my phone so that I can see the also, as they back up, the 0.22 microfarad X goes here, and the 0.1 microfarad X goes here by the fuse. So there's my backup note. If somehow I lose the picture I just took, I can give myself view hours, although it doesn't work that way. Oh, also, it does help before putting a soldering iron onto a component. It helps to preheat it first. As I learned Sunday, that's no guarantee that it works if you let it preheat first, but as I just discovered now that soldering iron with absolutely no heat won't do anything. Oh, that's weird. Okay, there appears to be there might be glue or something holding these in. Or I got the wrong two pins, which... Oh, there's glue on the PCB. Yeah, that component's glued to the capacitor next to it. There we go. Or actually, I'm not sure that's a capacitor, but whatever it is. All right, now I bet if I heat the pin up, it will probably... There we go. All right, so there is one reefa cap. It's got a wonderful crack down it. It just looks like it wants to let its magic smoke out, and I just denied it. Hopefully it didn't try to convince its buddies to do something. All right. All right, this one doesn't have glue on it. I was able to wiggle it out. So, yeah, this one looks pretty rough too. And I just denied it the opportunity to let it smoke out. Now hook that up to 48 volts and see what happens. Yeah, I might, maybe I'll do that, I'll find a way to do that on July 4th outside. To Stars and Stripes Forever, if I can find a public domain version. So what was that? It was I think in the old playhouses, if there was some emergency, and I don't know why they picked this song, maybe because it was patriotic, but they would play Stars and Stripes Forever to indicate there was emergency or something like that. I remember reading that somewhere. Guess nothing like a good John Philip Sousa march to tell people that now it is time to evacuate the theater in an orderly fashion. No pushing and shoving. Okay. Thought I'd at least screw this board in two places just to make sure that it was screwed in, and I somehow managed to put the screw in really weird. There we go. Just because one of those screws was ground, I just thought I'd put the other one in just to make sure that the board doesn't slip. All right, so the one other thing I'm going to do, I've checked the fuse. The fuse is good. So if there is a short, there is a fuse. But I am going to just take a quick gander. So I'm just going to check the resistance at a couple places. All right, so across line and neutral, it's like in the mega ohms. So, okay, so that's not shorted. Let me see if I can, I just want to double check. So I suspect the black is going to be ground, and okay, so that's 50 ohms. That's probably fine. I just want to make sure that none of these are a dead short. Okay, 150 ohms. That's probably fine. Okay, that's 25 kilo ohms. That's probably fine. And then that is 1.6, 1.5 mega ohms. And then these two, I think, should be shorted because these are both ground, I believe. Yep. Okay. So I've confirmed that the power supply appears to be okay. There's at least nothing presently shorted. For safety, I am going to put the cover back on, since I will be plugging it into AC voltage. So that way, if one of those caps decides to no longer be a cap, then at least there's something between me and it. Also, it'll keep me from touching anything while it's on, because I guess there is always a chance one of those caps could just decide to go pop. But at least I did check, and it's not shorted now. All right. I have no idea if my scaler is going to like this, so I may have to switch to using a TV. I will also go as wide as I can so that you can see anything that happens when I do this. So it is switched off. Plugging it in now. All right. The speaker is attached. Power is attached. It's plugged in. I've got it connected to the scaler, but the first time I've switched power, I am going to leave it on bench cam. So place your bets in the chat. 3, 2, 1. We've got a fan. We have a fan. Hey, my scaler actually does not totally hate that. Yeah, the Apple power supply is built like a tank, and it looks like Franklin's clone is probably also built like a tank. I mean, I'll give him that. The power supply does seem to be solid. I mean, even if it's not the way they'd build them today, it seems built fairly solid. Cool. Well, let me know if you discover anything while rebuilding those Apple II power supplies. I'll recap this just because those caps are going to be probably nearly 40 years old at this point. Okay, so it does appear as if I've got garbage on the screen, which means that some of this logic works. I would guess I have bad RAM in here too. All right. I don't have one of those fancy thermal cameras. Okay, the ROMs are warm, but they're just warm. Of course, that's probably because they're not hot, which is good. Yeah, I bet I've got bad RAM, and I bet I don't have any RAM. All right, so let me try this. I do know that if you had an Apple III, one of the diagnostic procedures is to drop it from a couple inches high, so I am not going to do that here, because this is not an Apple III. I am, though, going to just make sure that all the chips are seated. And maybe I could have just tried the memory chips first, but, ooh, actually, a couple of these chips have actually felt like they weren't seated that well. Oh, like all these chips right here these aren't the memory, but they did not feel seated. And the memory, yeah, the memory is, wow. A lot of these chips are actually not fully seated. All right, I'm not actually expecting this is going to fix the problem. I would love to know that it would fix the problem, but, well, wow. Actually, this row here was... I'm not sure if you can hear this. The RAM setup, it looks like it's 8 4164s. I'll have to go, I gotta go check my memory parts. All right, so I just seated all the chips. A lot of them actually did snap. Okay, I didn't expect that would fix anything. But I had to try, just to make sure. Yeah, socket, yeah, Rudy, that's for sure. Yeah, so I guess, let me double check here. The bank configuration, but it is Yeah, it looks like there's one bank of memory, and it's 8 4164s. I do want to try something, though, before we... Yeah, so this isn't like a completely correct clone. Shame on you, Franklin, for costing out your clone, although maybe that makes it easier to find memory, because there's like a boatload of computers that use 4164s. All right, just to make sure, because I know some of the Apples, although not the 2 Plus. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll move the RAM chips. Let me just try this first. I just want to make sure that Franklin didn't maybe clone some sort of diagnostic if the keyboard wasn't plugged in. Well, I got a blinking cursor now. All right. It looks like a zigzaggy maze. All right. Okay, I just want to make sure that they didn't clone some sort of the Apple IIe diagnostic if you don't have a keyboard attached. Although if they had, then that would have probably meant there's still bad RAM, because it would have been crashing the diagnostic. But okay, so let me see if I can see the chip numbers here. So I'm going to swap. Actually, I think I'm just going to use my... let me find my chip lifter, because I think this chip puller is... I think it's going to be overkill for these small little chips. Oh, it would probably help if I... You know, that'd be really cool if somehow I could find a way to automate OBS so that if it saw that my scaler was on a no signal, that it would automatically switch back to like my table cam. That would be really cool. I don't know. I know this, I think this scaler has a serial output or something, but I don't know if the serial output would be able to like tell a program that, oh, I have no signal. Because that would be really cool if I could just have it auto switch back for me. Or even maybe switch between the two. So I could like have an OBS scene where it could like be automatically switching between the two, or be on this capture, but as soon as I turn it off, it could just go back to the table cam. Because I forget to switch that all the time, seemingly. So maybe that's a something I'll have to look into for improving streams in the future. Adam, these are Texas Instrument memory chips. TMS 4164, or yeah, 4164-15NL. Yeah, Texas Instruments. So they are not MOSTech. If they were MOSTech, I would just say, forget it. They're dead. All right, well, with those two, the pattern did not change, although it's a blinking W instead of a blinking single quote mark now up there. Oh, hey, Big Bad Biologist, welcome. Yeah, it's a Franklin 1000 Plus. And it looks like I got a bad RAM chip, or two. but they're not Microtech RAM, because in that case I would just, I think Adam, if they were Microtech RAMs, I could see Adam's chat message now. Just throw it away. I know, these are usually, Texas Instruments memory are usually some of the more reliable ones, yeah. I mean, that's not to say that this computer didn't have some sort of a event happen to it. Someone ESD discharged. But yeah, the Texas Instruments ones are usually some of the more reliable ones. Them and the Japanese ones are usually decent too, I've found. All right, so I just switched the last two. Yeah, it could be a bad ROM, so maybe I just need to see if... Yeah, so I just changed the upper two. So I think the first two I changed, given the numbers, so I don't know if these two or these two were which one of these is the least significant bit and one's the most significant bit. I just swapped the two of them and the pattern didn't change. So let me see if my Mini Pro programmer can read a 2732. Because if I can read a 2732 in it, then I guess what I'll do, since it could be a bad ROM, is while I don't think I'd be able to replace it. Are those DIP 24s? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Yeah. Here we go. Okay. My Mini Pro can read 2732s apparently. So here's what we'll do. Just to rule out bad ROM fairly quickly. Especially if maybe someone happens to know if someone's posted checksums for the Franklin ROMs. But then again, they could be bad and it might be really apparent if I dump the ROMs. So I'm just going to take my Mini Pro programmer here. And I'm going to... I can't test the memory chips in this. I don't have a memory tester. But I can at least try to read each of these ROMs. And actually, I will share the screen. I just need to swap. I need to swap screens. Because if I share the screen, I wish I could, well, yeah, let me just, because this actually won't take but a moment. So if I read this and read, oh. Well, actually, so I'm just going to actually do this real quick here and save these. Documents. So this is Franklin F000. And yeah, actually, I'm going to see if I actually have some replacement RAM chips. Because I don't think swapping the RAM around is, well, it might. I'll read the other three ROMs here momentarily if the RAM comes up short. I mean, I could also try putting some deoxide in these sockets. But Also, if anyone's wondering, these are single wipe sockets. I guess I probably should have not expected anything differently. Because dual wipe sockets would have cost a few cents more. I'm trying to think of where because I can't remember if I have I can't remember if I have 4164s or if I have 44 16s. Yeah, let me see what I've got in terms of spare. I do have some spare RAM. I just don't remember if it's the right kind. Because actually I'm doing a pretty good job of... You know, the weird thing about these RAM chips is... I'm not totally sure, but these RAM chips kind of look like the legs are soldered. I might have to look at one under the microscope. Then again, they also do have markings on the bottom, and usually if there's pulled chips... Oh, I know I don't have any 41256s. I know that for sure. I may, when I swap the last two, I may check them under under the microscope. Something about the chips maybe makes me think those aren't original. Okay, so the pattern didn't really change. Okay, let me see if I remember where those memory chips are. Because I think I'm going to end up swapping chips. And I thought I put them somewhere safe. Oh, wait a minute. Let me check something here. I bought some memory for the... I was going to wait to reveal it till later. I did buy some memory for the Franklin 500. I just realized I don't remember what type they are. They're 41257s. Okay, that's probably not going to work. Somewhere I have a little box and it's got RAM in it for some MSX computers I have. I thought I had the RAM on my shelf right here. Not that little box. It's not that little box. Oh, wait. It is in one of these crates. No. 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 Definitely not that one. That's newer video cards. Here we go. Okay, so there's some of them right there. Okay, let me see what these are. These were pulled out of another computer. They have a label on them marking what where they came out of in that other computer. And they are 4416s. Yeah, so those aren't the right chips. Rudy, I think the other Franklin uses 41257s. Although it may have some other RAM chips on it. So, yeah, I guess now's as good a time as any to get the Franklin 500 on the bench, and let's see what memory it has. Because it might have something I can borrow. So I'm going to take one moment here and put the screws into some bags. And if I had a marker, which is I have carried off somewhere, I would mark what went where. But I'll just... All right. I just don't want to mix screws up, because then that gets really annoying putting things back together. I might also see if I have any other memory hiding somewhere. Okay, so that was the Franklin Ace 1000 Plus. I'll just set it over here, and we'll get the Franklin 500. Now, there's one problem with this Franklin 500 that I do know about, and it is a rather serious problem. And I'm not referring to the fact that there is some weird mystery dirt between the tab and control key. Put the reefa caps back in, yeah. That'll teach that Franklin 1000 for misbehaving. The problem is, I don't have the power supply for this Franklin Ace 500. So there's no way I can power it up. Sorry. But we can open it. Opening doesn't require having a power adapter. Because I really wanted one of these, and I probably paid more than I really wanted to spend. Because these kind of go for somewhat crazy amounts. I don't remember what I spent, so I'm going to plead the fifth if anyone asks how much. But it didn't come with the power adapter, because it seemed like the ones that have power adapters are twice as much. And luckily, I looked at pictures, and I thought that it looked like I could... yeah, if I had a 2C power supply that had the correct voltages, I think the 2C power supply is a different... you know, I'm not sure. I may be removing more screws than I should be. I will find out the error of my ways shortly. They have different connectors, but I have found a connector for this. So if I can build a power supply, I'm good. I think this uses the +5, +12, and -12 rails. Because seemingly, I looked it up. I remember looking it up, and it used three of the 4 rails. I think if it uses -5 internally, it Must be generating it. But I do seemingly remember it noticing its power adapter connector did have one of the two negative rails on it. Somewhere, I think it's on my table of parts over there, I have the connector. I found a web store on eBay that actually sells, of all things, welding supplies. And they had, because I was just trying various searches on eBay and trying to match the connector by picture because I couldn't, it looks like an aviation connector, but that was about all I came up with. I didn't know what the angle was or whatnot. So it's a DIN connector of some sort. And so finally I found a seller of welding supplies, and they sold replacement connectors for welding torch leads. So if you mangled your lead, it would, oh, I think one of the keys fell off the keyboard. You could replace your the end on the lead. And anyways, I found that they had a couple that looked like they were close. So, unfortunately, because they screwed up the order, I don't know exactly which one that they sent me was actually the one that matched. So I may have to see if I can measure the angle of the DIN connector. Because I think it's let me count I think it's a DIN 8. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, DIN 7, excuse me. DIN 8 actually would have been easier to find than DIN 7. Ah, there's the last screw. The last screw, which I think I launched to the other side of the basement using the power of no, don't fall. And it's probably nowhere to be found in the basement now. Actually, it's probably just a couple feet away. It probably went far enough to hit the wall. That's like, well, you can't see it. It's, anyways, it's a, it looks like it's a DIN 7 connector. But I don't know what the angle of it is. If I can figure out what connector I bought, then that's at least one step to documenting how to make a replacement power adapter for these. Because you see, I see Franklin 500s appear occasionally, and they don't have the power adapter. Of course, they're also usually missing one of these keys too, and mine is missing one of the keys. It's missing the one that I think I'll just have to live without. Oh no, there's a piece of plastic that fell out. I think there's a latch or something that on this back side that has to unsnap to get this cover off. Oh, going to need the spudger. There's the spudger. Trying to get this off without cracking plastic, even though plastic is cracked. So anyways, I mean, these occasionally show up without power adapters. It's kind of a shame they are missing the power adapters, but it looks like it is possible to get connectors. Oh, interesting. Did I miss a screw or something? There we go. There's a latch. Oh, no, nope. Well, I'm about to break some plastic, and I'm trying not to. I don't think they designed these to really come apart. Seriously, I sometimes think Spindler worked at Franklin. Unfortunately, I'm about to break some of the case back plastic is about to break, and I'm not sure there's anything I can do to keep it from doing that. Yeah, this piece right here is... All right. It's acting like I've missed a screw. Or that there's a latch or something. Oh, okay. I think it's a latch that is just really hard to get to. There we go. I think it's above the external floppy drive port and above the RGB port. I can see two latches that looks like they haven't given yet. Unfortunately, plastic is breaking. Does the floppy knob need to... No, the floppy knob is... The floppy knob is fine. It's caught here, and the handle keeps... There we go. There we go. All right. I don't know what exactly was caught back here, but I finally either broke or dislodged the clip that was holding it in. Because unfortunately, there were a few of the little plastic clips that broke in my effort to try to separate them gently. But yeah, the floppy knob is actually pretty firmly attached. Luckily, it doesn't need to come off. All right. Then it looks like now I got to remove the RF shield. Which then everyone is going to see the great chasm inside. It's almost like Franklin was developing this before Apple came out with the 2C. Uh-oh. And they were just waiting to see whether Apple would have an internal or an external floppy connector, or power connector. Because there's a huge space inside where a power supply could have gone, but it doesn't. There's not anything there. Hold on, I'm trying to... Unfortunately, this screw here is... oh, you can't see it. This screw here is not going to come off without a fight. Unfortunately, it kind of looks like someone might have been in this before. Oh, Adam says that they were designed to have an internal power supply, but it wouldn't pass FCC testing with it, so they went with external. That would make sense. Because the thing is, there is plenty of room for an internal supply. But yeah, that would make sense. If they couldn't pass FCC with it inside. All right, I'm hoping that I'm going to get this off, but unfortunately I got a couple screws that are not cooperating. All right, so, okay. Oh, that an 2CI plus internal power supply will fit. Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah, I think I saw that post that said that you could use a 2CI plus internal power supply, and then I went to eBay to look, and I was like, I quickly figured out that A, those are rare, and B, if I had one, I'm certainly not going to take its power supply away from it. As, well, I just used the 2CI plus. Why would I need a Franklin clone at that point? Okay, now the reason why I haven't removed this one last screw is because it's, the screw head is starting to strip, and I need to find a different screwdriver. I need to find a slightly bigger Phillips. I might be able to get it out with that. Let me see. I've got some bits over here. It actually already looks like I pulled all the Phillips bits out of that. Okay. Let me see here. Let me see if these have any bigger bits in them. Also, let me see. I think I have a, oh. All right, and let me go. Oh, here we go. I knew I had a bigger screwdriver down here somewhere. I'm going to try to go one size up, and hopefully that will fill the space. Okay, that. Or at least maybe find a bit that fits slightly better. Let's see, that's a Phillips 2. Is this a Phillips 1? No, that's a Phillips 0. Do I have a Phillips 1? That's a Phillips 2. That's a Phillips 2. Oh, it looks like I've lost my Phillips 1 bit from this set. All right, we'll see you later, Rudy. Thanks for joining. I'll see here. Is that a Phillips 1? That is a Phillips 0. There we go. Phillips 1. I thought I had one somewhere. All right, let me see if this Phillips 1 bit, which I think is the same as the screwdriver I was trying to use, but maybe this bit might... no. No, that is a negative. All right. No, we're not, probably not going to be... Well, this Franklin 500 might not be spilling its secrets today if I can't get that screw out. And the unfortunate thing is that screw is holding the keyboard down too. So I really got to remove that screw somehow. It's either that or, well, I might have to do something I don't want to do here. And before anyone thinks that that's just use a Dremel, no. No, I would probably rather use the Dremel than what I don't have a Dremel at the moment. The Dremel I had broke and I just haven't bought another one. Oh, here we go. Maybe I won't be resorted to do what I thought I was going to have to do. There we go. Now the screw might be loose enough for me to get with the Phillips. There we go. Okay, crisis averted. Use that paper clip I found earlier, yeah. No, it's just I found a pair of pliers that that worked. My free set of pliers from Circuit Specialists for buying something expensive from them. Which actually, quite honestly, for a free gift for buying something, it's not a bad set of pliers. Got a good assortment in it, so actually it wasn't a bad free gift. All right, so now I got the Franklin 500 open. I think the keyboard will probably... I think the floppy drive will have to come out first, and then I think I can get the keyboard out. I guess let me get that. Anyway, so there's the space that would have been for the power supply that wouldn't pass FCC testing with it, so... Unfortunately, you know, I'm looking at that space and I don't think the reactive micro power supply board will actually fit there because I think it's more square than rectangular. Yeah, they did not they cheaped out and did not install RAM sockets. That is correct. I needed to inspect this anyways because I gotta somehow fix the no power supply problem. But I needed to inspect it anyways, even if I can't do anything now. Because I think the drive is going to have to be... I'm going to have to take the shield off the drive and see if because I have a distinct impression the heads might have crashed in shipping. Or, correction, the head might have crashed in shipping. I think it's a single-sided drive. DDF525A, it's a... whatever it is. I thought it might just be a single-sided. Maybe at this point it was double-sided. Anyways, this was shipped to me with a floppy disk in the drive, and the floppy disk has the distinct appearance that the drive had hit the disk in shipping. All right. So the keyboard is coming out somehow. There we go. Wow, that is actually a fairly substantial keyboard. Is this actually a mechanical switch keyboard? Oh, it's a metal plate. Maybe that's why it feels so substantial. That actually doesn't feel bad. Hi, Thomas. Welcome. Yeah, I guess at least for the keyboard feels pretty good. It's a big connector, though. All right, let's see if I can remove this plastic shield. Here we go. It looks like it's just old adhesive. There we go. Yep, just old adhesive. All right. And looks like there's a couple screws holding this shield in place. Oh, I bet this goes under the entire motherboard. I bet. All right, well, I'm going to try anyways. Because I need to inspect the board because there are electrolytics in here, and I guess especially if I'm going to do one of the upgrades that I would like to do to it, I might as well recap it while I have the board out. But I read online somewhere, and I know that is can be both the most accurate and least accurate way of finding out information. But I read online somewhere that the Franklin Ace 500 had empty RAM sockets, which does appear to be correct. Well, empty RAM positions. I guess I don't think the article said empty RAM sockets, because obviously there's empty places where RAM could go, but that by installing the RAM that I bought, hoping that the type in the article was in fact correct. Or no, actually, I think I found a picture of the motherboard and zoomed in and read the chips. I don't think the article said what memory it took. That you could upgrade it from like 256K to 512K or something like that. It's like, ooh, RAM upgrade. So I ordered some, my data rate just glitched there. Interesting. All right, so it would appear as if there might still be something holding this board down. And there's more broken plastic. Oh, actually, it might just be there we go. The metal plate, this power supply box is part of the metal plate. And I think there's another screw or something somewhere. Or clip. Might be a clip. Oh, all right. It appears as if oh, there we go. No, it's not. The shield is just simply screwed onto the side of the what would have been the power supply box. That's the problem. Yeah, I'm gonna double check that, Adam. I got to get to the point where I can see the RAM a little better. Yeah, if that would be a bit odd if this actually was static RAM, but let me see what I got. I think I can get the board out now. Maybe. There we go. And the speaker is luckily connected with a socket. Oop. Oh, wow. And there are so many oh, wow. Look at all those screws holding the shield on. That is ridiculous. Actually, I'm just going to, I'll do this. So hold please while I it looks like it is M5 M4257P. 15 or 150 nanoseconds. And that looks like Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi M5 M4 257P. Let me look that up. Yeah, that at least should be some good RAM. The Japanese companies that were making RAM at the time seemed to make pretty decent RAM, so I'm hoping it's nice and reliable. I mean, because I've got other computers that have like Fujitsu and Siemens memory, and well, I guess Fujitsu's Japanese, and it seems to be pretty reliable too. It's just DRAM. Okay, well, maybe I bought the wrong RAM chips. D41257C. These are NEC D41257C chips. Did I get the wrong DRAM RAM chips? Did I just want 4257s? That would be me just buying the wrong thing. Well, actually, you know, some of these other chips in here are 256K by 1. But are 41257s the same thing as the 4257s? Or are they actually different? Guess while I wait for a reply on that, so let's see, there's some ROM chips. I got the right thing, okay. I see one of the ROMs in here was made by Mitsubishi. Interesting. I mean, I guess I knew that a lot of those companies have made chips too. I'm actually trying to look to find the 6502. And it's... that's not it. There's the sound chip. Oh, there it is. It's hiding down here. Yeah, it's a GTE 65 SCO2 with -2. Franklin Computer, copyright 1986. At least the ROMs are socketed on this thing, even if the RAMs aren't. So it looks like in terms of electrolytic, they used all the... yeah, there's some caps. Of course, they'll be the expensive ones to recap. Unfortunately, I don't have a power supply, so I can't power this up. Okay, CMOS 6502. Yeah, that makes sense that it would be CMOS, because actually I think this can... I think this runs at 2 speeds. I think there's like a low and a high speed or something like that. Or there might be, I don't know for sure. But yeah, that's the Franklin Ace 500 that... at least I do see there's the 8 unpopulated... okay, it's a 2 megahertz chip. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I was thinking it, because the original Apples were like 1 megahertz. So cool, it runs twice as fast. I'm still looking at the keyboard connector. It looks like a 50-pin keyboard connector. It's almost like they said, well, let's not do a matrix. We'll just have one wire for like every 2 buttons. Yeah, I could build a power supply. I don't have parts on hand to build one. I could build one. I was thinking of getting one of the reactive micro ones and putting it in a box and wiring it. I mean, I could probably build one that would fit. I could probably build one that would fit in this space here, but I'd have to replace this connector with something to pass AC power in. Although, since it's just an aviation connector, it looks like it's... oh. I was about to say it looks like it's just held in with a nut, but it looks like they welded it after they put the nut. Get a Meanwell power supply. I thought about that, but seemingly the Meanwell power supplies that had the right voltage rails are more expensive than what Reactive Micro is charging for their board. Although maybe I was just having trouble finding one that would work. Okay, so Adam says that I can try them in the Franklin Ace 1000. Okay, well then I'll just use the ones I bought and not try the... I'm not going to desolder the ones that are on this board. Instead, I'm just going to like launch screws everywhere. All right. Okay, now I have lost enough screws onto the floor that I do need... let me see if I can find the screw I just sent flying. Because I need to put the Franklin Ace 500 away. Unfortunately, I suspect that along with all the little broken plastic clips that have fallen out of this Franklin Ace 500, I suspect I'm going to be missing a screw or 2 when I'm done. All right, well, I'm going to put these in. Well, I didn't do the best job of keeping these separate, but I'm not going to put this thing back together because I need to come up with a cap list. Because unlike the Apples, where you can just go to Console 5, and I think Console 5 has cap kits for all the Apples, I don't have the clones pre-made. Screw loose. I bumped a screw off the bench and it hit the floor and went flying. So yeah, I guess in a way I do have a screw loose. All right. So I'm gonna walk around the workbench and see if I can find it, because actually I've knocked 2 screws off the bench. I'm just hoping I'll be able to tell them apart, because I've actually have one that flew off the workbench that's for the 1000, and there's one that flew off the workbench for the 500, and I seemingly sent both of them flying. And by flying, I mean like like I really launched them, apparently. Oh, there's a chip I removed from something that's on the floor. Oh, okay. I found one of the screws. All right, that's the one for the 500. Oh, I found my desoldering station cleaner. Apparently, I knocked that off the workbench at some point. Yeah, I don't know where the screw for the 1000 is, but at least I found the one for the 500, so I can put it away. All right. Only someone could make a workbench that is Justin-proof. That no matter... Yeah, fly with an airplane. Yeah, seriously, I think one of those screws, I sent it... It seems like I sent it to orbit, because it wasn't on the floor where I thought it hit. Which probably means it's just under the workbench. All right, so the Franklin Ace 500 is just going to set it in that box right behind me. I'll try to figure out what caps are on it later, because I'm going to have to remove all of these screws to remove the RF shield to see 2 of them, because they're down and under there. Oh, wait, maybe they got installed where the writing's visible. Oh, that would be... Oh! Actually, I might be in luck. I can at least read the capacitance. The voltage is on the bottom, but... Well, I can read the voltage of one and the capacitance of the other. Yeah, I guess I probably am. We'll have to remove every single one of those screws to see what they are. All right. Let's get the Ace 1000 back on the bench. And I think what I'll do is yeah, Adam, I seemingly lose things on every live stream. It'll be fun to when I actually get some of these back together. I need a shirt like Retro Techie has that says, I never finish anything. Sometimes it seems like I never finish anything. All right, now these chips came from UT Source, so they could be complete garbage. All right, so what I'm going to do is I guess I'm just going to, I'll replace one chip and see if the pattern changes. And if the pattern changes, then I'll leave the new chip in. And if the pattern doesn't change, then I'll put the old chip back in that position. And hopefully maybe that'll tell me how many chips are bad. All right. Luckily, the new chips are NEC. Well, and they have a different part number, so I shouldn't be able to get them too mixed up. But anyway, so that you can see what I've done, let me see if I can move some things at the edge of my bench so that I don't push them off the edge of the bench, because there we go. One of them is the Elgato Stream Deck that I don't really use these days because, well, I don't know, I guess, yeah. Yeah, maybe I should look into that, Thomas, just ordering the cheap old PC card RAM boards. That would certainly be a good way to do it. Especially if it's populated with one of the reliable brands. Okay. That does look different. So I will leave that chip there. And we'll try the next one. I mean, the pattern was the same, but the characters were different. So that kind of tells me that that might have been one of the bad chips. Well, Thomas, if you happen to see any good auctions on eBay of good candidate boards, just let me know, especially if they're like on eBay US. Although I guess if they were cheap and good enough, I might order them on eBay Canada, but I'd probably prefer eBay US because the US sellers already charge an arm and a leg for shipping. It looks like the characters are different again, but this is a Franklin Ace 1000. So it uses 4164s, which I think are fairly common. So hopefully I might be able to, maybe I will look for like one of those RAM boards. I'm not so sure that memory chip I just put in really fixed anything. Yep, basically, Thomas, we figured out that the memory chips I bought for the Franklin Ace 500 to upgrade it will actually work in this computer. It just won't see the full capacity. So I'm looking to see if maybe which of these RAM chips are bad. Yeah, it did change, so I'm still going to leave the new chip in. And that's different there too. So I guess I'll leave that one in. Hi, VHS. I am, I guess I can go to the table cam. So basically, VHS, you stopped in. I've powered up the Franklin Ace 1000, and it's got it's acting like there's one or more bad memory chips. So luckily, I bought some memory chips to upgrade the Franklin Ace 500, and they'll work. They just at a reduced capacity in the Ace 1000, so I'm seeing if I can figure out which of the memory chips are bad. Well, the behavior is different again there, too. Big bad biologist. So far, I have replaced 4 of the memory chips, and the behavior is changing each time, so I am almost tempted to just go ahead and replace the other 4 and see what happens. But then again, I'm kind of wondering if something happened to all of the memory chips at some point, or it's, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and swap them all. Enough of this one at a time, because if I just replaced like 1 or 2 and got it to work, then that's one thing. But 4 and the behavior changes each time, it tells me something may have happened to all of the memory chips. Or the problem is actually not the memory, and it's some of the logic used to address the memory. But I would actually expect that changing the memory wouldn't change much of that behavior. Of course, it might be both. Yeah, I'm just going to go all the way. Now, I'm not going to leave these memory chips in here because these are for the Franklin 5000, and they're like 4 times as, I think they're 4 times as large as I need for this computer. I.e., they cost me more than the 4164s probably would have, although at this point, could be a wash. I'll probably get actual 4164s. I don't think there's any way of making this computer be able to use more than the 64K of RAM. Because it's a clone of a 2 Plus. At least not with what's on the motherboard. So yeah, I'm just gonna, we'll go ahead and just swap these others out, and yeah, I've got some handy if I need it. The contacts actually look pretty clean. But maybe I should have sprayed contact cleaner in these. I guess I can always pull the chips. Okay, so I swapped out. So those are 8 new memory chips. And yeah, that yeah, they're also single wipe sockets. It is a cool pattern. Yeah, I do believe that the other RAM probably was working, and the problem is something else. Yeah, I'm wondering if it's a logic chip. Unfortunately, this is where. All right, well, we'll see you later, Adam. So we'll see what I have parts to actually maybe be able to swap. But yeah, I suspect the other memory's fine, and so I'm just going to go ahead and put the memory back in, and assume that there's a logic chip somewhere that's faulty. If someone happens to have schematics for, I guess, the ACE 1000, I know they're out there somewhere. I just don't have them handy. Yeah, I guess I can pull up this. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? And I am going to just go ahead and before I put these memory chips back in, I will go ahead and put contact cleaner in them. Yeah, I don't know if Joe's in the chat. I haven't seen him. Of course, he might be lurking. So, Joe, if you're out there and you happen to have Franklin ACE 1000 schematics handy, pop a link in the chat. Or I'll, oh, you know, I could go to the table cam again. Seriously, I'm going to look into seeing if I can't find a way to I don't know, I think OBS Studio can support Python scripts. I'm going to see if I can find a way to write a script for OBS that will that can talk to my scaler. If the scaler has a command, maybe it's got a command that'll tell you if there's a signal or not. Maybe I'll write a script that, if I'm on the capture input and the scaler has no image for, I don't know, I'll pick some time that's not like too long but not too short, then just maybe automatically go to table cam. That would be a pretty cool script. Because probably when the scaler doesn't have a signal, I am probably doing something on the workbench and have forgotten to go back to the table cam. I'm looking to see if I have, I think I have a little can of, there it is, deoxit that might have a little left in it. And I thought I'd go ahead and use it up. Oh, awesome VHS, a Coco 2. I'm getting ready for Septandy 2, so I'll, more on that later. Oh, I think I've got the problem that Adrian had with his deoxit, where his cans were out of propellant but not out of deoxit. Yeah, that's annoying. I'll have more details on the what I'll have for Septandy later. Yeah, I just rotated it to high because I had it on low, and Actually, I think I'm about... Actually, I think the can's about empty. I'll just... Yeah, I wanted to use it up, and I've used it up. Okay. All right, well, I will... Butane. Hexanes, yeah. And pentane, yeah. All right. Yeah, since I wasn't sure how much deoxide I got in there, I just sprayed it with some QD electronic cleaner, plastic safe. I'll let it evaporate a little bit. I'll just go ahead and pop these chips back in and... And then I'll see if I can't... Well, actually, I do know one thing I would like to do with some of these computers. And I guess unless I get... although I'd kind of like to get a hold of an actual Apple II, but clone will be close enough for it. So I've got the book that I first learned to program with, the Rosalt's Basic Programming for Kids. And there are 6 computers that the book works with. And I guess I'm slowly acquiring one of each of the examples that are in the book. So, and actually one of them is the TRS-80. So, and then the Atari 400 that I got, well, that's one of the ones that's in the book. It's the Atari 400 or 800. And the mystery computer that I teased to my patrons, but that I guess if you were clever enough to realize that I might have a clue somewhere in the basement. There's that one that was in the book. But then, yeah, it was the Apple II. I think the book's basically for the Apples. It's like Apple II, Apple II Plus, or Apple IIe. Although I think the book honestly assumes AppleSoft Basic, so maybe it's not the Apple II, or it is Apple II with the language card. But then also I guess the other, let's see, there's also the Timex Sinclair 1000, which quite honestly is the most lackluster one as far as that book goes, and the Commodore 64. Because the Timex Sinclair 1000, I think there are several programs that are in the book you can't even use, or can't even do on the Timex Sinclair 1000. It just won't do them. Womp womp. I'd kind of like to... Oh, awesome, VHS. That's good to hear you got one of those. Have you tried all the IC reseat? Yes, I have tried reseating the ICs. Coco 2 is being shipped from Sharonville, Ohio, of all places. All right, so we're back to the original pattern, which I guess is good. I wonder what that jumper's for. Don't know that jumper. All right. I'm just trying to feel if there were any chips that were getting like... None of the chips feel like they're getting overly hot. I guess one thing I could do is the CPU clock's working. I don't know. I guess I'll fire up the oscilloscope and check the clocks. For good measure. Hey, Eric, welcome. Because if this chip's not making good contact, then we're not doing anything. That's the CPU, so I just figured I'd go ahead and put contact cleaner in it. I know someone at some point suggested the ROMs. I may pull the ROMs and read. Like, I pulled one and read it. I don't know if it's good because I just read it and then the chat was suggesting I just continue on the premise that it was RAM. All right, let me at least see if I got clocks. If I don't got clocks, then won't have anything. So I guess let me see the 6502 pinout. And also let me see if I can find the Franklin Ace 1000 schematics. Let's see, there's the Franklin Ace 1000 Technical Reference Manual on archive.org. That might do it. In clock is on 37. Thank you, Thomas. All right, let me see where my oscilloscope probe has managed to run away to. Oh, speaking of oscilloscopes, if anyone that was watching my stream on Sunday and I seem to have trouble with the oscilloscope and trying to find things on the Atari, I think I realized that the problem was that the signal I was looking at and thinking I should have video was not a pure video signal, which is why I was not seeing what I expected on the oscilloscope. All right, so pin 37, so let's see. 37? How many pins is this 6502? Is this a dip 48? No, it's a 20. It's a dip 40. So 37, that's 40, 39, 38, 37. I need a better ground pin. Hold on. Unfortunately, Adam left the chat because I think the other day he was asking me if I had alligator clips for such a reason. And I have the Kaiweets. Only because I wanted the brand that at least I thought had a halfway decent chance of working. They are definitely not a sponsor, but these are supposedly Kaiweets alligator clip wire things. So now, when I need to run a ground wire from somewhere so my oscilloscope will reach, well, you know, they're not the clippiest things in the world. Maybe I should have just got the no-name ones. Well, now... They're all one length, so unfortunately, the ground lead will just have to 40, 30, 37. You know, I just realized that maybe I don't need the... Yeah, I still need the extension lead. Okay. Anyways, the reason I was having trouble on Sunday with the oscilloscope was the signal that I thought should just be video actually was video and audio combined at that point. Therefore, that's why I was having trouble with the oscilloscope, is because what I was looking at was not what I thought I should be looking at. Ew. Okay. Hold, please, while I... Oh, realize that... Wow. Okay. Well... All right. All right, let's see here. Switch the capture to VGA2. Yeah, I think the lead length is going to be noise related. If I could ground this at a closer spot. Well, actually, you know, for this, it might not matter as much because this is not exactly a high-speed signal. But there's the clock in on the CPU. All right, VHS, we'll see you later. So, yep, glad you could check this out during your lunch break. It's okay, that's pin 37. That clock signal honestly doesn't look that great. Is that a good clock? It looks awfully jittery. But I guess the rising edge is the most important thing, and the rising edge looks stable. So, okay, maybe that is good. Okay, so you say, let's see, outs are 3 and 39. So, okay, well that definitely looks a lot cleaner. I guess that doesn't surprise me that the CPU is yeah, okay, so we have clocks. We have clocks. I guess the next thing that would probably be good and I guess since I've had this on for a few minutes now, I'm just going to do a check to make sure there's not like anything that I missed that's getting overly hot. And then I'm open to suggestions of... Next is reset. Okay, which pins reset? Somewhere I got the pin out, but somewhere I tried to pull the pin out up. Ah, that is pin 40. Yes, because if we are held in pin 40 on power on. All right, there's pin 40. Pin 40 is, looks like logic level high right now. Let's see. Reset, it has a line over it, so that's going to be active low. Low to high, yeah. I did see a low to high. Okay, so it does look like, so it looks like, yeah. Yep, so if you're looking at a schematic and you see a signal that's got a line over it, it's active low. So reset is that way because when you first turn the system on, it's low to hold the CPU in reset until the power has a chance to stabilize, and then it's high. So at the moment, even though it's at about a 5-volt signal right now, the CPU is not in reset because it's active low. And yeah, that does look good. Next, the data lines. Yes. All right, and actually, this is actually nice because all the data lines are on the same side of the chip, which means I can reach them easily. So let's see here. So this is pin 1. Oh, wait a minute, you can't see that. I'll just kind of show you the where I've been probing here real quick, just if anyone happens to be watching this because they're having trouble with their ACE 1000. So pin 1's right here. So far I checked pin 37, which was the clock in, and I checked pin 39, which is one of the clock outs. And then pin 40 here is reset. So now the data lines are starting at pin 26. So here's 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, and this is actually going to be data line 7. So it's luckily in this case 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, just down the line. I know not all, some processors the data lines aren't in a row, but luckily in this one they just run down the line. And what we're looking for is a data line that doesn't look like it's doing data line type things. Yes, Eric. Definitely something that I've caught on as I've done it and learned. So yeah, this is kind of one of those things you read up on it and actually learn by doing. So in fact, learning by doing is maybe one of the best ways to learn this. And I've picked up things from like watching Adrian's Digital Basement and Steve and Bruce and Joe and other streamers. So yes, it's kind of one of those things. And in fact, that's why I like retro computers, to learn electronics, because they're simple. So yeah, so in this case, this is data line 7. This looks like there's actually data on the line, as we can see a rising and falling pattern. What we're looking for is, I think let's see, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, oh, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 20, yeah. I thought I missed a pin. So this is data line 6. That looks like data. All right, that looks like data. We're looking for one that it looks like it's not doing that. So these, yeah, yeah, we're looking for something that's not rising and falling like data. Although, quite honestly, I would kind of expect a little more variation here, but... And I've lost count of where I am, so I'm inevitably going to get to okay, I think that might be data bit 0 there. Because I think this next one's going to be the read-write line, maybe. Okay, let me check where I am here. So I got ground, address 12, 13, 14, and 15, and then data 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. I am now on the read-write line. And it looks like the CPU is, because it's read-write is active low for write, because there's a line over the write. So it looks like the CPU is trying to read memory. Yeah, I'm on pin 34 right now. So I do not see the CPU trying to write memory. It looks like it is trying to read memory, which is probably correct for the part of startup that it looks like it's stuck in. Yeah. Why would the, yeah, it's kind of, yeah, and the other thing is it's, the green wire. Actually, I don't have the green wire connected. I realized that there was a, although maybe I don't have a really great ground point anyways, but there's a capacitor, and I've got the clip on the negative of the capacitor. I may have to use the green clip at some point just to be able to reach the probe. Granted, that being on the capacitor could still be introducing noise, but I decided to clip on the negative side of this capacitor that I believe is on 5 volts rather than use the long green clip lead that would add noise. I figured it would be... Yeah, the CPU can't get to memory to return. Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if that means there's a... What are the low address lines doing? Yes, that's... I was actually just about going to suggest that. So, on the other side of the CPU, if we start with pin 1, we have... And this is where it's going to be a bit awkward for me. So I'm probably just going to go to the oscilloscope because I want to tilt this board in a direction where I can see it, which is going to make it even more awkward to hold. Okay, so walking down from pin 1, we have ground, ready, the other, so this is going to be the other clock out, which that looks okay. This is interrupt, which is active low, so nothing, doesn't surprise me, nothing's requesting an interrupt. All right, this is the, then there's a no connect, and this should be the non-maskable interrupt, which is also active low. And so that's not active. This is a pin called sync, which I don't know what that does. This is actually VCC, so that's good, that's high. And the only reason I'm doing it this way is because I'm walking down the pins, and this is address line 0. And that doesn't look right. I would expect there to be more activity there than just, okay, that's address line 1. That's address line 2. This doesn't look right. All right, I'm going to power cycle to see if it even starts. So there, after power up, I see activity on address line, that should be address line 0. I would expect activity on all the address lines, more so on the low ones than the high ones. Well, that's address line 0 now that I power cycled. I think at some point this system is crashing. So I may have to... But yeah, I kind of wonder if something's got one of the address lines stuck high or something. Oh, there we go. All right, I think I got a candidate address line to look and see what logic chips are on it. So that is 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. That's address line 5. Address line 5 is stuck low. Oh, wait, maybe buffer, looks like a buffer IC going mad. Yeah. I mean, okay, maybe address line 5 being stuck is not necessarily indicative of a problem, because at some point it's not going to be reading a lot. So anyway, here that's a ground line. But yeah, I'm going to go look at the schematic and yeah, because here's some of the high address lines. There we go. This one is that's address line 13, and it looks like it was working. And now that is what I would call a signal that does not look right. That's address line 13. That looks like something is not pulling the bus high, or pulling the bus low, or keeping it high. That looks like, because if you see where the signal is down at about 1.5 volts, that, oh, there we, or maybe my oscilloscope probe wasn't on it. Well, never mind. Yeah, it's about 2 volts, which maybe for this signaling level that was okay, but okay, I just removed the oscilloscope probe because I need to pull up the schematics, because it does kind of look like, it does really look like there's something on the address lines that are not behaving correctly. Oh, okay, well, here's some documentation on the let's see here. I'm looking at the, let's see, that's a high-level diagram. Here we go. I think I've got some schematics. Let me go full screen. Let me zoom in. Actually, let me see if I can go to a single page view. The old 74LS 244 or 245 maybe, yeah. Let me see. Actually, there was a nice chart here. I'm gonna go to share screen here. So there's a nice chart in the, so this is, well, it's on archive.org. So it looks like, okay, and this is the block diagram. So here's the CPU, and here's the ROMs. There's the Floppy controller. There's where the drives plug in. Here's the RAM chips. I think this is the character ROM. Here's the 555 timers that do something. But yeah, let me see if there's a 244 or 245 in the diagram somewhere, because that could be, I might actually have some of those in DIP format. I gotta go look and see what I got. I do have some DIP chips that I bought for various projects. No. Anyways, I will, we'll put the link in the chat. So that's what I'm looking at if anyone wants to follow along on your screen instead of the live stream. That is what I've got open. Whatever I see is hung off the address line. Okay. Here we go. So here's the 6502 CPU and the schematic. Luckily for our benefit, they have drawn it so that the signals are grouped in more logical positions than where they are on the chip. So here's VCC in. I think the ground is going to be down here. So there's our reset interrupt, non-maskable interrupt. There's our phase 0 on the clock, phase 1 on the clock, for example, and then like here's our address lines, and then here's the data lines. So the address lines go through, it looks like they go through ZJ. All right, let me see how these are labeled. J5? Is there a component at J5? J4, J5, J4. Actually, okay, there are actually components at J5 and J4. Let me see what those are on the block diagram. Those are 8T97s. Oh. I'm probably not really the best person to ask about some of these. Yeah. Thomas is a good answer. I'll work on the problem. We'll learn together. So I think the address lines go through I think I found the first chips they go through here, if I'm reading the schematic right. So it looks like they go through these two chips, and I'm having trouble reading what they are. Therefore, I will employ the camera of, I'm zoomed in way too close. So these are MC6887. Hold on. MC8T97P. And I am focusing as best as I can, but the printing on this chip is actually pretty bad. So it is a MC6887P, MC8T9, I guess the part number is that first one, probably a 6887. How many pins is it? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a 16 pin. Hi, Jay. It's a 16 pin chip. And it looks like from the diagram, there are 3 of them in total, and it looks like each of them's getting 6 of the address lines. 5 or 6. It kind of looks like one has 5, or 2 have 5 and one has 6. Yeah, it's 16 pin. It's kind of, I think they're, I bet whatever they are, they're 6 channel, not 8 channel. I'm not totally sure that I'm reading the schematic right, but it does look like that the address lines do go through these 3 chips on, I guess they're 1897s, which would match what's written on it that's hard to read. And I don't know what those are right offhand. Those are hex 3-state buffer inverters. In this case, I think they need, oh yeah, they're going to need 3 chips because they're 6 3-state buffer inverters in each chip, and there are 16 address lines. So they do need 3 chips to cover all 16 address lines, which is why on the schematic, 2 of them have 5 address signals going through them, and 1 of them has 6. Yeah, I know. And that, I could not tell you if Apple did the same thing or if Franklin made it different for reduced cost. But that seems like Apple would have designed it differently. Yeah, that's kind of gross. Also, I don't have any of those chips. Yeah, it's time to put the scope on them. That I will agree with. Let me see. I gotta, yeah. Had to work with what they could get. Yeah, quite honestly, they should have a read-write line to them. MC 8097. Okay, so there's an enable, and there is an enable. They have enables. So if enable's low and the input's low, the output's low. Yeah, if enable's low, input high, output high. If enable's high, then it's high impedance. Okay. Yes, every single IC on this board is socketed. Even the lowly 555s, which are my vote for probably the least likely to be bad on this board, but they're even socketed. Everything's socketed. Of course, I think at that time Apple was socketing everything too, so I guess in a way maybe it's good that Franklin copied Apple by socketing everything. All right, I am going to have to go to my extended ground for this. Okay, so looking at these chips, yeah, there's 2 555 timers on this board. They're down near the speaker. So I don't know if maybe they are for the speaker or what. I'll have to look at the schematic. Yeah, I'm going to go back to cap. So basically, for anyone, I'm looking at the data sheet. So this pin here is enable A. And this pin here is going to be enable B on both. So pin 1 is enable A. Pin 15 is enable B. And then down each side, luckily it's input, output, input, output, input, output. And in fact, even on this other side, it's input, output, input, output, input, output. after the enable. So yes, that would make sense. The sound in reset control, yes. That would make perfect sense. Because there is a reset, yeah. I bet if there is a reset button on this case, I bet if I followed it, it's going to go there somewhere. Okay, so this should be fairly easy to trace. All right, so let's power it up. So let's see, that should be getting the, so enables low. So, okay, this should be input. If I can get my oscilloscope lead on it. And I don't know which address line's which, but already that one doesn't look great. So output is input. That input looks a little better. Output, input, output. So right away, I don't like that signal right there. So that is J5 pin 2. That's going to be input A. I don't like that one. Let me go back to the Franklin A schematic and see which address line that is. So J5 pin 2 is address line 13. Yeah, that looked awful. So that's address line 13. Address line 13 is garbage. Or garbage, as they might say in fancier cities. So I'm going to use my official handy dandy, oh, it looks like it's going to storm outside, piece of tape on my bench to write down the address lines that don't look good. So A13, I'm going to call that one into question. Yeah, I'll have to follow it back. But I think that's actually going, I think that's going straight from the CPU to that input pin. So actually, that right there, I need a CPU. I think I'm going to need another CPU to debug this, because that line, if I'm reading the schematic right, that is going directly from the CPU to that pin. There is nothing between it. And that signal is garbage. I bet the CPU is bad. If the parts are in sockets, just swap to. Well, here's the problem. Maybe. Is a 65 SC02 going to be compatible with in place of this 6502? Oh, swap to the buffer. Oh, you're right. It could be the buffer chip. You are right. Yes, I did. I completely ignored the fact it could be the buffer chip. Oh, okay. So, Thomas, the other 6502 that I have that I know is socketed, it is a GTE G65 SC02P-2. And it is in a 40-pin socket. And it would be going, it would be the one I would have to try and place this Signetics SY6502. No, Eric, that's actually a good observation. I completely ignored the fact that that input could be garbage because this chip could be pulling it down. There could be something wrong with this buffer chip that's pulling it down. I completely ignored the fact that even though the signal goes between here and here and declared it's the CPU, I ignored the fact that it could actually be either of these two. Okay, Thomas is recommending that I do not try the CPU swap. Therefore, I would be inclined to concur. Let me check something here. The Atari 400 has a Signetics P6502B on it. I do know it works. I don't know if it would work in place of the one on the Franklin. Yeah, let me swap two buffer chips. I can tell you with certainty that if one of these buffer chips is bad, I probably do not have anything that is remotely compatible with them, so I'll have to order some parts. But let me swap two of these buffer chips. Well, let me first make sure the Franklin is off. And yeah, it's off. Okay. C65CO2. Okay. Maybe the one in the Atari might actually be pin compatible. I guess I can we can check that out if I think the CPU is bad, because I know the CPU in the Atari probably works. I would like to keep it that way, though. So if I have any doubt that it's because I know some of the Ataris have like custom processors. Pull and swap till you find the bad chip. That might be what I do. Anyways, so I'm going to take this chip, and I know I didn't even check this other one beside it to see if it is what it's doing, but let me see if by chance, if the behavior changes, then it would indicate it's this chip. Now, if the problem remains, then it's possible that both buffer chips are bad in the same place, but it also could be it's the CPU. Okay, the Atari one is completely standard, and I guess the one in this Franklin's completely standard as well. Well, yeah, I know it is. So, okay, I guess I could, if I think this CPU is bad, I guess I could borrow the one from the Atari. All right. Yeah, luckily, since these are socketed, it makes it really easy to just try this. So now, well, if I can, I'm having trouble getting my oscilloscope probe. All right, let me just touch the pin. Yeah, that's still low. Okay, that's the chip that I just swapped out, and its pin 2 is fine. Yeah, you know, that does suggest and luckily the Atari also has its CPU socketed. So right here is it's got a B marking on it. Yeah, it's probably fine. Could be a let's see here, data catalog. I'm just pulling up a here we go. The Centertech hardware manual, which is a big long document. That's not what I need. 6502. Yeah, these are going to be pin compatible. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do, and I mean, I guess the worst thing is if I do damage a process. Okay. Well, hopefully, if I can get the chip lifter, it works better. It would work better if I could hold the board down. Let me see if I can, and pull straight up off the socket. Actually, let me be nice to myself and put a little contact cleaner down this CPU socket to break the oxidation. And make all the labels fall off. Oh well. Okay. There we go. Now, hopefully that was enough to break the oxidation, if there is any in this CPU, and maybe it'll just pull straight up. Wow. I guess after being in a socket for 40 years, yeah, whew, that one was really stuck in there. Okay, so there's the 6502 from the Atari. Actually, interestingly enough, same manufacturer. It's actually a year older, actually. But they're both 6502s. All right. Just to make it easier, well, because this CPU was pretty oxidized when I pulled it out. I don't know if you heard the snap when it came out, but it was pretty solidly oxidized. All right. I think I'm going to go for it. 3, 2, 1. Woohoo! Well, that's better. I don't see a cursor. Oh, there we go. Was it a bad CPU? I mean, I know they can go bad, but is that... I guess I might be trying to find a replacement CPU for this guy, which I guess is probably easier than some of the parts I could have had to find. All right, well, I'm just going to leave the game connector unplugged. All right, at least I've got the keyboard now. All right. Well, maybe I should have known it was a bit too easy. Yeah, maybe it is just dirty. I mean, I can try the CPU again. I mean, I could put that. I can try to see what happens if I put it in the Atari. Yeah, the keyboard might need love. I mean, none of the keys work, which kind of has me concerned. It might be the keyboard encoder. Although I think I have an idea of where I might be able to get a keyboard encoder. It also might be a cap and foil keyboard, and none of the... Because it's like... So I have to press the reset button on the front to... well, actually, Eric, I can put that CPU back in the board because I put contact cleaner in the socket. So, yeah, it's either the keyboard encoder or the cap and foil, which means I'm going to have to pull this keyboard off because it is not... I mean, it is not responding at all. And the cap slot is stuck on. Although it's the same, yeah. Okay, this keyboard is entirely not responsive. So I guess I'm going to have to pull it off and see what kind of keyboard it is. Oh, it's a Keytronic keyboard. At least that's what this says on the underside. So it is a Keytronic. And unfortunately, that really doesn't tell me much more. I'm going to have to remove the... luckily, it looks like there's 4 screws holding that in. So let me get to a point where I can pull the keyboard off and take a look at it. Oh, first, though, I guess to Eric's question... what would happen if I put the old CPU back in? Well, first, if I can get my chip lifter in the right spot. There we go. I know these are single wipe sockets. They have a limited lifetime. But I guess, well, I think I'd already pulled the original CPU out once and contact cleaned it. But I guess for good measure, I think this chip is probably dead. What I might do, I might try it in the Atari 400 just to confirm. So this is the original CPU. And the thing is, yeah, it could be, but I suspect it's actually the CPU. It is not without precedent that, yeah, I think it's the CPU. What I'll do, yeah, I think it's actually the CPU, because I've even watched, I subscribe to Adrian's Digital Basement. He does a lot of 6502 stuff, and I mean, he occasionally finds that it's a dead 6502. So it is not without precedent of a failing 6502. And it's a Signetics one, and I'm trying to think, seemingly when he's removed dead ones, they might be Signetics ones, I don't know. Of course, Microtech ones are probably prone to fail too. However, since it is Apple II July, my Atari 400 is willing to loan the Franklin Ace 1000 its CPU until I can get one. Could there be a problem with the board that took out the CPU? I guess so. Hopefully not, because otherwise I'm going to kill another CPU. I mean, it's possible that there was some sort of an ESD discharge to the old CPU, but there are some Signetic 6502s in Bulgaria. I don't know that I need a Signetics one. I don't need to replace it for same brand. I just do want one that's maybe likely to be a legitimate 6502. And the other thing is, Erica, sometimes it's age. I mean, semiconductors do have a lifespan, and it is possible that age and or cosmic radiation, it's just that 6502 that was in this Franklin, and possibly other conditions, possibly it's how it was stored. Because this Franklin, it could have been stored in, I don't remember where I bought it from, but it could have been stored in an attic in, well, I was about to say Death Valley, but I don't think there's any houses in Death Valley. But let's go an attic in Texas for 35 years. And it just might have, yeah, cycle limit. It just kind of got to the point where that chip, due to various environmental conditions or whatnot, it died. It exceeded its capabilities, and maybe it was maybe it was marginal to begin with, because there's even variations on a wafer that some of the silicon is better than others. And maybe that one was just kind of one of the not as good ones. And just based on various factors, it failed. And quite possibly that might be why this Franklin was taken out of service and put in a storage closet. it might be that, oh, of course that LED would be, oh, can I maybe take this off without desoldering it, maybe? Ah, all right, let me take a picture of this so I remember which way is which. Oops, if I can remember how to use my camera, there we go. All right. Actually, it's interesting you mentioned that, Eric. Moss brand SEs are among the worst, yes. Actually, I was reading something about the Voyager spacecraft, I think it was on Ars Technica, that it was like, it was basically to the point of, I forget what it was, but it's like, I think NASA might think that something's failing on one of the Voyager spacecraft. So it was pretty much the, you know, these spacecraft have lasted longer than NASA thought they would, but it now seems like something's failed on one of them, and it might actually soon stop functioning. Of course, I think also I think the radioactive isotope generators that are on it, I think are actually also about to the point where they may not have enough power in a few years to power everything on the spacecraft. So yeah, it's even the Voyager spacecraft will eventually yeah, always the capacitors, and it's hard to recap. Yeah. I see, yeah. I mean, it is possible that something else has failed on this board that's causing that CPU to not work well. I mean, I'll probably slip it into the Atari 800 or the Atari 400, but I'm actually not convinced it's going to work. Although if it does work in the Atari 400, that probably means there's something marginal on the Ace 1000 that I'll need to track down. So anyways, here's the keyboard. It's, well, I mean, it's dirty. It's not quite as bad as the Amiga keyboard. So if you didn't see my stream last night, and how good the Amiga keyboard looks now, I'm actually hoping I can at least clean these keys up and they'll look, although it looks like they've yellowed. It's kind of hard to tell on camera because of the white balance correction. So I think they're going to be more yellowed, but I think all this dirt will come off pretty easy. So, but anyways, it looks like this is a Signetics SCN 8035A. I presume this is probably the keyboard encoder or the keyboard controller. And then some Jelly Bean logic. Yeah, no, it looks really tasty. All right, for, I guess I'm going to just pull a key. Lucky number 7 here. Just to kind of take a look at what we got. So I guess if anyone's wondering what kind of keycaps and key switches these might be, so there's what the underside of the keycap looks like. It looks like these might be double shot keys, because it looks like there's the beige plastic on top of the black plastic. There's a spring here, and there's what the key switch looks like. Yeah, and there is a brand on them. It looks like it is Keytronic Spokane. Wow, was this thing made in Spokane, Washington? Or at least maybe that's where they designed the key switches. It is actually kind of a very interesting circuit board. There is only solder mask where the traces are. Very budget-oriented. The serial number matches the computer. So my Ace 1000 is serial number 80788. So this is the original keyboard. You say it looks like a cherry? Well, there's actually the keyboard. Keytronic Corporation, Spokane, Washington, USA. March 1983. I think it says PER, so maybe that's person number 10. So whoever person number 10 was on the line that day, here's your keyboard. It still exists, and maybe I'll get it back working again. Yeah, it looks like cherry switch on the keyboard. Yeah, they kind of do look like but they're marked Keytronic. So maybe it's so maybe they're cherry switches, but Keytronic had them branded. Because Keytronic, I know, made a lot of keyboards. So maybe Cherry branded them because Keytronic bought a lot of them. Or maybe they're Keytronic clones of a cherry switch. All right, now this is kind of the scary part, is I am going to remove these screws. And I'm hoping that that will reveal what kind of keyboard this is, because at least unlike the Amiga keyboard, it does not appear as if the switches are soldered to the PCB. So I think I'm actually going to be able to lift up. Eric, I don't know that we know that much. It would probably be sheer coincidence that someone would be watching this video and would be, although I mean, stranger things have happened. I will not dismiss completely that it couldn't happen. But yeah, it would probably be a sheer coincidence that employee number 10 on the line in March of 1983 would be watching this to say, hey, I remember assembling those keyboards back in 1983. But I will say this, okay, actually, I'll go a little broader. Okay, if you are watching this and you happen to work for Keytronic back in the day, and say hi in the comments. Maybe if you have anything you can share about the keyboards, or I mean, I think at this point they're probably I don't know if Keytronic exists, or if they do, who owns them now, but yeah. Maybe if you worked for Keytronic back in the day, maybe if you had like a particular keyboard style you thought that was cool that was on a retro computer, maybe that'd be interesting to know. So, yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Franklin service guy showed up at Joe's stream. Yeah, I mean, how do I know that someone might not find the stream because they remember putting the Franklin keyboards together back in the day, and they just find my stream. And I will not dismiss that I might not someday find a comment that. Oh, well, I think I've solved half the mystery. Okay, I know why this keyboard doesn't work. I think this I think that half of the keyboard probably tells you most of what you need to know, because right there are all of the metal foil and the bits of the foam that are left, and yeah. This is a foam and foil keyboard. The foam and foil bits are disintegrated. And Retrotech, if you really were CEO of Keytronic, did you have a favorite keyboard? Is there like a keyboard design that you thought was really cool that you all made back then? Or, of course, he could be joking. Sometimes I can't tell. Then again, how do I know? Maybe he was CEO of Keytronic. Anyways, yeah, right. That explains it right there. This keyboard is not going to work until I replace the foam and foil. Yeah, luckily, yes, TechSelect sells it. There's probably other places too. The big one. Retro Techie. Yeah. At least share where you got your T-shirt if you remember Retro Techie. I'm gonna have to get one of those. Yes. So right there is probably one good reason why none of the keys work, because there is the foam and foil is absolutely decimated. There is. It is, yeah, that the foam is disintegrating. Yeah. I highly suspect that it is quite possible the keyboard controller is fine. It probably, yeah, it's probably a case of I gotta replace the foam and foils. All right. Well, we'll see you later, Thomas. I think I do appreciate and thank you for your help in debugging. I think I pretty much know what I got to do to be able to get this keyboard. I'm gonna have to repair the keyboard, and I got to find a 6502, and then maybe the because until I can type on it, that's gonna be hard to do further troubleshooting. Also, I do know I do need to get some discs, because I need to be able to make some floppy disks. So, luckily, I do have this Retro Techie. Disintegrating Foam is a great 80s punk rock band. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that could be the name of our punk rock revival, or even maybe a revival band name, Disintegrating Foam. All right. So it looks like I've got a couple things I'm going to have to get for the Franklin Ace 1000. I need to get some new foam and foil pieces for the keyboard. Luckily, TechSelect sells those. I need to see if I can get a 6502, because I highly suspect that I've got a bad one. And I really doubt that. Although, I guess before I conclude, I will do the one last thing. I will put it in the Atari and see what happens. But I suspect, because the Atari works, I suspect it's going to be dead. So, and I need to get some double density floppy disks. I believe that I saw the Glitchworks, I think, sells them on their Tindy store. And they're actually just over on the other side of the mountain and a little bit south of me. So they're pretty close. So actually, I'll probably get them in a few days if the Postal Service... Actually, if the Postal Service is on their game, I should probably have them in 2 days. But I've noticed lately that the closer the person is, the less organized the post office seems to be in delivering it. Anyways, so I need to get some double density floppy disks. I think I saw Glitchworks had some on their Tindy store that are like new old stock, but they're opening them up and at least making sure the disks look okay before they send them. Unless you ask them to not do that because you want to see old box, but then they're as is. I think they're still as is, but at least they'll inspect them. So I need to get a box of those. I luckily now have a grease weasel, and the floppy drives in the Emerson 8000 EC are 360K floppy drives. So I believe I can use those floppy disks, or those floppy drives, double density disks, and a grease weasel, and be able to write a boot disk for this computer. At least I hope it works that way. And that is what I need to try to get this working. And probably if I can find a diagnostic disk that I can write the image to that'll run on this computer, maybe the MECC diagnostic, it's probably the one I'll try to write instead of trying to find a DOS boot disk. So let's see, that's the Franklin Ace 1000, the 3 things I'm going to get for it. I think I also need to order caps for it, but I think before I recap it, I am going to at least try to make sure that that I can get the keyboard working. Because honestly, I know the caps need to be replaced, but everything looks fine. None of the caps look like they're leaking. So I think I'd rather get the keyboard working first, because I can recap at any time. And they're going to be the expensive caps because they're the... Are those the radial ones or are those the axial ones? I always get the two mixed up. So I think I'm going to get the keyboard working first. I'm sure someone would disagree with me and think that I need to recap it first, but I want to see the keyboard work. Because if I can't get the keyboard working, then... right, I am on it. That user is... I can only... Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Oh, let me see. Put user in. Hide user on this channel. There we go. There we go. They are gone. The spammer is now gone. Goodbye. All right, for the Franklin Ace 500, now that I have said goodbye to the spammer, that I would hope no one clicked on their links. The Franklin Ace 500, I need to make or find a power supply for it. And actually, that's probably really what I need to do, is try to power it up. At least it looked okay on the inside. Again, the caps look okay, so I can probably try to power it up. Before I even try to upgrade it, I'm going to try to power it up to make sure it works. Yeah, I know, Retro Techie. I probably shouldn't be so quick to judge. For all I know, the person that was told by their whoever's paying them to leave spam might have been torn leaving those messages, because maybe they really do like retro computers and they really didn't want to leave it on my channel, but the boss said you got to do it. So yeah, you're right. I should not be so quick to judge. However, I suspect it was some script that is just finding channels that aren't on subscriber-only mode and are blasting spam. There's probably not actually a person behind it, although I could be wrong. I should not be so quick to judge. You are right, Retro Techie. But I probably was right. Okay, so Franklin Ace 500, I need to get it powered up. So I'll have to find a power supply. Honestly, the Ace 1000 is probably the quicker to get it working, so I think I'll probably try to... It's a bot. Yeah, I think Eric's right. That was a bot. So, one last thing. Just because I know everyone's going to ask, or someone's going to ask, inevitably, they'll be like, well, Justin, you pulled the 6502 out of the Atari 400, and it worked in the Franklin Ace 1000. Maybe can you just for sure conclude that there's something wrong with the CPU? So I am, I got the notches aligned. Oh, actually, ugh. Okay, I will give Franklin this. It seems like the single wipe sockets they used are better than the ones Atari used. Yeah. All right. So, just because someone is inevitably going to ask, I'm going to put this 6502 in the Atari 400, and I'll see what happens. So, the one good thing is, although I still can't really easily show it on stream because I don't have a good way of standing the TV where you can see it. I did go on Amazon, and not only did I get some alligator clip leads for debugging, I did get one of these or actually it was a 2-pack. So I now have some F connector to RCA adapters for the coax cable that I have to plug into my TV. Or no, actually it only will fit on the TV itself. Okay. Well. All right, anyways, I can plug the RF adapter from the Atari 400 into the TV I have under my workbench. Although actually, no, I'm going to use a different TV. Actually, I've got another TV to test. I think it's old enough that it should work. We'll see. Anyways, one of my neighbors was, I guess, getting rid of some TVs, and I couldn't say no. So I got 2 CRT TVs. They actually have built-in DVD players, but I'm pretty sure they still have analog tuners. Yeah, analog tuners. So I decided I actually brought one down to the garage, or the basement from the garage. And I'm gonna give it a try here, along with the Atari 400. Because actually I just decided I don't really want to crawl on the floor to plug this into the TV down there. So anyway, so there's the CPU board. If I can find a way to show you what the screen does on screen, I will. Let me, I guess, go as wide angle as I can. All right. So I got the Atari. Actually, this will probably be a good last thing to try because it kind of sounds like it is about to storm, which could affect my internet connection. It usually doesn't, but it sometimes can. So anyways, I have gone to where I put my Atari 400 stuff on a shelf just to kind of make sure it was in a safe place, i.e. out of the line of fire of me trying to do things. And that was the speaker from the Atari 400 hitting the floor. I'm sure it's fine. Those things are usually robust. But of course, it would be exactly what I would do. I would have a speaker that has worked for 40 years and I would drop it and break it. All right, anyways. All right, so let me plug the RF. So the RF cable for the Atari 400 plugs in here. And then there's a a long cable that sticks out of the Atari. I'll plug that into this TV. I have the Atari hot rigged so that because I don't have the door on it, so the switch for the cartridge is taped down. So it shouldn't have a problem with the cartridge. All right. And let me turn the TV on, and I suspect I'm going to have to turn the volume down because it's probably going to be all staticky. All right. Well, that's good. It's got a picture. So let me turn it down to channel. Oh. That's lovely. Oh, well, okay. Oh, the DVD drive ejects. That's cool. Well, okay. I may have to just get the other TV because it's only has one channel programmed and it's the wrong channel. Oh, also, yeah, okay. Okay, I guess, good news, the TV works. So I can, because actually I was thinking of setting up this TV in a place where I could have it on the side in case I was working on retro computers, because it's a CRT, but would also at least be able to maybe watch a DVD while I wasn't streaming, because we all know what would happen if I watched a DVD while I was streaming. Unless I burn one of my own live streams onto the DVD to watch while I'm live streaming. Although that could still concern some people. All right. But I guess it's good to know that TV works. So if I go get a remote for it, or I may have a programmable remote somewhere already if I go look. But if I can get one of those programmable remotes, I should be able to program it so that at least it has the channels available that are commonly used for RF modulators, as well as I can watch DVDs on it. Because sometimes it's nice to have some entertainment when you're working on things. All right, so I got my other TV here. It's on channel 3. And nothing. Got nothing. It's a black screen. Yeah, this CPU is dead. I'll just make sure that everything's plugged in. Yep, okay. So that kind of confirms it. So basically, oh, well, my tape failed. But anyways, yeah. I should have Space Invaders. I have nothing. The CPU is dead. So that pretty much tells me what I need to do, and that is buy a replacement CPU. And I'll get a CPU, and I will put the CPU back in the Atari 400 when I get a replacement CPU, because I think that's only fair that the Atari get to keep its CPU that works. But I guess that also confirms, for anyone curious, because I know someone would ask, So that kind of confirms that, yep, the CPU is dead. I got a black screen on the Atari. And I suspect the reason why the screen was black and not garbage is probably something to do with the way the video works on the Atari versus the Apple, where I think there's the graphics chip, what is it, like the CIA or the TIA or something like that does graphics on the Atari. So that's probably why the screen was black and not garbagey. But anyways, it looks like the CPU is dead, because with the other CPU and the Space Invaders game I had in here, it should have just fired right up into Space Invaders. Instead, I got a black screen. I think it pretty much says, yep, the CPU is dead. I need to get a new one for the Franklin Ace 1000. I can put the CPU back in the Atari 400, and it'll be good from there. Get the foam and foil repair set for the keyboard for the Franklin Ace 1000. Get some floppy disks so I can write a diagnostic disk. And I might actually be able to get the Franklin Ace 1000 running sooner rather than later. And then it'll be on to the Franklin Ace 500. Because that one's probably be a little bit more, because I got to actually make or find or build a power supply for it. So anyways, with that, I am going to go ahead and call this stream to a close. I would like to thank everyone for joining me for this special stream that I decided to do this afternoon, since it is my 1-year streaming anniversary. I thought, well, yeah, I'll do something for that. I'll kick off Apple II July with an afternoon stream. I do know that 1-Bit Fever Dreams is streaming later tonight. So if you're into puzzle games, or if you're into original Mac, like the original, like your 1-bit games on the Mac, I believe that is at 9 o'clock Eastern. I would invite you to come check that out. I hope to be there. Last time he streamed this game, I think it's Fool's Errand is the game. It was loads of fun. So he's going to be continuing the game that he started last time. So I'm sure it'll be loads of fun, and audience participation was invited. So it was a fun stream. Check that out if you're available, 9 o'clock tonight, 1-Bit Fever Dreams. Eric, I'm glad that you had a chance to learn some things. So don't be a stranger and feel free to ask questions. And apparently, I am going to have to, there we go, have to consider turning on subscriber-only mode, because it seems like, despite the fact that YouTube is trying to block spammers in the comments, they are really on a rampage in the chat these days. So, yeah. Of course, then again, maybe I'll just have to set some more mods. More mods equals quicker removal actions. But anyways, thank you for joining me. I hope to see you later. My next scheduled stream, I believe, is Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. I will be putting together the Chicken Lips LED Bright to go along with my fruit logo, which maybe I will find a way to make that show up on camera a bit better. I know that will be lots of fun. Plenty of LEDs to solder. Only 2 colors, though, but it'll still be lots of fun. So I hope to see you then. Thank you for joining. As always, smash that like button and share this channel with a friend. And I hope to see you next time. So have a great evening and take care. Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon, and by your tips and memberships on Ko-fi. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. Don't forget to smash that like button. And if you've liked what you've seen, subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss the next video or live stream. And as always, thank you for all your support I hope to see you next time, and until then, take care!